Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast, and we are excited because we have a first-time guest in the house, and I've been actually on his episodes before. And if you guys have been listening to some of his episodes, they actually have, or maybe had is the appropriate term, but
had is the appropriate word.
Yeah, but they had maybe one of the coldest profile, podcast pictures on the planet. And you may know him from the Knights of Den podcast. And joining us obviously is Brandon Keckler of that Knights of Den. He is a huge Bronco fan, and many, of course, know him maybe because of a certain other host that was associated with him too, maybe, and a guy that does some work over there with Locked On Broncos now. You see him over there on the Bleacher Report app every once in a while. He writes, obviously, for predominantly Orange. He's a huge friend, of course, of the Manely Broncos podcast himself, and that being Sarah Bettinger. Yeah. And but Brandon Keckler, thank you so much for hopping on with us. We finally get to do this. I mean, roles are reversed. I used to, appear on your guys' podcast. Now the roles are reversed. I'm asking the questions now.
Yep. That's awesome. I'm excited, man. I'm honored to be on the podcast with you guys.
So pretty easy.
Especially while the Chargers are currently getting decimated live on television.
That's right. 100%.
You can never have enough. You can't have too many Brandons. That's all I'm going to say.
we obviously
not enough.
Yeah, we had the pleasantries obviously beforehand, but obviously
Brandons.
We had a Brandon in the bottom left corner, Brandon in the top right corner, and of course to make things easier to remember, Matty down there, Mr. Belly Rub down there in the bottom right hand corner, Mr. Lucky Belly Rub, we should say.
Yeah,
he's got a great jawline.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That just made my whole day. Yeah, as long as I don't do the truffle shuffle, I think we'll be all right. Apparently, the rub is just enough friction. When you add the shuffle to it, I think it messes up the juju. So
you didn't, Josh.
No, it'll happen. So it'll happen organically. I perform at my own time. So the Broncos doing big things. The Thunder just got voted for their new arena. So my hometown going to have the Thunder until 2050. I can't even imagine.
Are you an OG of the OKC?
Yes, from there originally. I got this in 2010.
Okay.
So
that's where we're moving in March, is to Paul's Valley, right underneath Oklahoma City.
There you go. Sick. I could hook you up with some people, some good folks. So
I'm excited. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, got you. So big things popping. I got back from DC, so thank you for dealing with the poor audio quality from last week, but right back in the studio this time. So let's get this thing popping, y'all.
And Brandon Miller over in the top right corner. How you doing?
Guys, we're back on the Victory Podcast, boys. Let's go.
We are. And, the Broncos have won 6 of their last 7. But, however, before we dive into that.
The shoulders are too broad for the meme background.
Before we dive into any of that, Keckler, one of the things that I'm sure you've listened to some of our episodes before, one of the things that we do that is fun for first-time guests and that are obviously huge Bronco fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've told me the story before, but since this is your first time on Manely Broncos, why don't you kind of enlighten people who are Broncos fans and maybe not Bronco fans, which, I mean, kudos to them for listening to this podcast. But why don't you enlighten us about how you became a Denver Broncos fan? I see you in the Demaryius Thomas jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a Niner child, and my first jersey was Jerry Rice, and my whole family was all Niner fans. I grew up. All my friends were either Niner fans or Raider fans. And then what happened was, is 97 Super Bowl, I was 10 years old. And my dad, that was his second favorite team. He's a big believer in that you can have an NFC team and you can have an AFC team. So he only rooted against the Broncos when they were against his Niners. But that kind of was a core part of him is he, when he left high school, he went away and lived in Colorado for a bit, and his uncle showed up at his door and said, "You like beer? Yep. You like football? Yep. Okay, you're coming with me to the Bronco game." And then started taking my dad to home games, and he just fell in love with the culture. And so I think I picked up some slivers of that. And then it was the 97 Super Bowl. We had the squares, and we were all going to make money and this is like at the end of the first half, if they didn't score, if the Broncos didn't drive down and score, we were going to make a ton of money. But the Broncos had already like caught fire in my soul at that point. So I was the only one in the house like, "No, go Broncos." And they're like, "You're not going on the skiing trip." And I'm like, "I don't care. Go Broncos." And then sure enough, they drive down and they score, and then they end up winning that game, which was their first Super Bowl game, their first Super Bowl victory. Sorry. And then from that point forward, I just decided I'm going to be a Broncos fan for life. And then I wrote out all the terrible quarterbacks after Elway and kind of like proved it, and then we got the Cutler and it started to get a little better. Then Tebow and that whole stretch was freaking awesome. And then the Manning wave. And now once again, the past 5-6 years, we've been proving it. So Broncos are my number one, kind of flipped with my dad, where Niners are kind of like my number two. Still root for the Niners unless they're against the Broncos. But they kind of organically captured me as a 10-year-old kid and just won me over. And Elway won me over, and TD and Sharp and McCaffrey. And so since then, 97, I've been hardcore.
That's right. It certainly helps when, those teams won back-to-back, right? Like when winning back-to-back like that, and then really captivating, it right from the start there. So thanks everybody that's chiming in the chat, of course, Buana Beast, John K, Sir John K. You guys can go check out the work that he does obviously over at the MHRT Network. I think it's the CCF Pod. So go check out what he's been doing. So it's really interesting now that we can finally have meaningful football. And Keckler mentioned this in just that little brief instance. We mentioned it numerous times, like in the 8 years now, the Broncos have been scraping at the barrel for meaningful football. And I think that the moment they lost that game, it was like, how can we get back to the winning ways, right? Obviously, they played the Chargers. They should have won that game. They did win that game. But how can we get back? And I think that one of the best things you could possibly say is that Sean Payton is our head coach. They are a mentally tough and stable team. And, there's a reason why now the Denver Broncos have won 6 of their last 7. And is kudos to the fact that Sean Payton is that head coach based on everything, the way that things are going. Because I don't know that, with any teams that we've had previously, if they go win 5 in a row, it seems like rather likely that they would be crashing and burning and losing 5, right? Losing 5 in a row after that.
Yeah, I mean, it just, the Texans game was a blip on the radar, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. We've won 6 of the last 7. It could have been
was still so close.
7 of the last 7, but I'm fine. This is fine. Just kidding. But no, seriously, like this, like I don't know how to feel because I haven't experienced this in so long. Like holy shit, we're winning. Right. What is this? Is this? What do I do? What do I wear? How do I act? What do I say? How do I watch this? This isn't. It's like I'm speaking a different language. But we got the best teacher in Mr. Payton. But no, I'm super hyped. Kind of feels like going forward here, especially the Lions game. Every game is a playoff game to us now. And what I mean by that is like every game, there's so much on the line. Like when we lost the Texans game, which really sucked, but if we'd won that, our playoff chances would have gone up to, I think it was like 65%. We lost it, dropped down to 21%. We're back up at 51%. And then we'll see kind of what happens. We'll talk about it and like who to root for. And then obviously if we win against the Lions, it'll change again. But every game has so much weighing on it. And I literally can't remember the last time that happened. Even in the Super Bowl year. I mean, obviously the games had weight, but not to this extent.
Yeah.
What about so Keckler, when you go back and you look at that Chargers game, what was like one of the first things that stood out to you as far as when you looked at that game and the way things were shaping on in that game? Like, you hate to say, was there ever a moment you were worried? But like, was there ever a moment like you were worried, at least going into that game, or a moment during that game where you're just like, you know what, the Broncos may actually give this away a little bit.
No, I hate the Chargers so much, and I just my hatred was fueling me like a Sith going into it. So I just was like, I don't even care if it gets close to where we're going to be losing. Like, we just have to defeat the Chargers and destroy the Chargers. My favorite play was the one that was the fumble recovery touchdown. They got switched back, even though that was, they deemed it to be an incomplete pass and not a fumble. I just felt like there was it was such a magical play, and it showed such athleticism and so much from him that I remember texting Sayre just about it, that I was like, I don't even care that play didn't count. That was like probably one of my favorite defensive plays from a Bronco player since like maybe something Chris Harris did. I know Simmons has been, that guy in this rough stretch that still pulled off a lot of those good plays, but it felt like one of those big especially because Chris Harris had some big moments like picking off Phillip Rivers in some of those games that mattered, that it just felt good again to have like a defense that was just like humiliating the Chargers and pulling off a touchdown, even though it got reversed.
That's interesting because even though Justin Simmons has the most picks of Patrick Mahomes like ever, anytime he got one of those, it almost didn't, like, you were obviously excited about it, but it didn't really feel the way you're describing, where it's like, oh, this will make a huge difference. Like, this actually does something, because like we just knew we were going to lose at the Chiefs anyway, right? So that's actually a good way to look at it. I hadn't thought about that, but no, you're totally right. Like, CHJ had those moments where like he got that pick, and it's like, holy shit, like that's a turning point in this game.
And I guess because you're right, in that game it wasn't like we really needed that moment, because it already felt like we were kind of going to win by that point, but it still just felt. It just felt like a star play. There was just some kind of star power to it that just got me excited. I was jumping. I was probably right here, just like hopping up on my bed.
Right. What about you, Matty?
McMillan is what we thought Mathis was going to be this year. And so
at least in the nickel,
he's definitely for the next version, Orange Crush 3.0, whatever you want to call it. He is our Strap Harris, and you got to find a couple of guys like that in order to really push your ceiling higher on a defense. I mean, we didn't have much invested in the guy at all, and he comes in and, hey, Clayton, we just found this guy.
Yeah,
he's like indispensable for our defense. One thing that is like completely unlocked our defense is our willingness to blitz secondary players off the edge, whether it's like McMillan or Locke or whatever. Right. Like, those guys are coming. Now,
we're just blitzing so much more in general.
The sack that ended the game, like, there was a dude that was left wide open. Like, he had the whole left side of the field. It's just, homeboy didn't have enough time to get to that read in time. But, like, we're leaving ourselves vulnerable in some spots, but it's calculated, and we're willing to risk it to get the biscuit, so to speak. And you got to have that in big moments. Yeah. Otherwise, like, it's death by 1,000 cuts, and guys can just have all day to throw and pick you apart, like we are other people when the game's on the line, and they get into their shell, or they're throwing a bunch of guys back, and we just hit the underneath, and it's like, okay, like, we are in attack mode on defense. It is so nice to see that. And we're going, because our offense at times has such a small margin for error, we have to make up that difference in the fringes. And defense and special teams is where that difference comes from. We're finding it. This is a team that's built to win games late, built to win games ugly, and they want to make teams play in the mud, and we're all about that.
Right into Russ's skill set, because the fourth quarter, when he leans forward in the chair, that hasn't gone away.
And the creators, the constructors, if you will, of that entire formula has been Vance Joseph. Like, Vance Joseph has operated that defense and just really kicked things up. I mean, there's a great video. If you guys have actually not had the chance to watch it, there's a Brett Coleman video that was posted where he talked about how historic the Denver defense is right now. I mean, like, as far as the clip, I mean, like, I think at one point, like, the pressure rate or the blitz rate was like around like 30% or something, like, and right now, like, which was still a decent percentage, right? But like right now, like the Broncos are blitzing at nearly 40%, which is, just under like 50% of the time. So, I mean, I think that like how they're getting creative, like not to use the Vic Fangio term, but like, it's like the death by inches, like what you're talking about, like Matty, of like, how they maybe just missed, right? Like the Chargers just missed that particular play. But the reason why they didn't was because the schematic blitz, like on a PJ Lock play, coming from, a free rush, if you will, on that, or a Jaquan McMillan. So it's the way that they time that right now. Like Vance is just in his bag right now. The way that he's in lockstep of like, he's basically, what is it? He's operating the perfect golf game. He is thinking 2, 3, 4 shots ahead, than everybody else. I mean, like he is.
And you got to be in the pocket to do that, to be able to be attacking and to be centered and have that mojo and feel like you're confident in your unit and you're confident to be able to be like where you're on the offense when you're on defense. I feel like we've missed that in a lot of these misfires in the past. And I would never have thought that Vance would be able to pull this off to where he's got this team in a pocket to where it feels like they're in control of the game when they're on defense. And that's just that it just still feels like a miracle that I can't really even explain of how we got here from the Miami game.
He's playing 4D chess. And part of it too, that just kind of is really interesting to me is how much this makes it feel like he maybe just didn't trust the roster that he had before, or like the specific group of personnel that he was using back then.
Or they didn't trust him.
Or they didn't trust him, or they didn't buy into what he was doing, or they didn't have the skill set that he was looking for. Because, and I'll give credit to Vance, I'll give credit to Peyton for this, really the whole coaching staff for making that much of a change in terms of like the guys whose snaps were reduced, obviously in Damari Mathis, the guys whose snaps were increased a lot more.
Getting rid of Gregory.
Getting rid of Gregory was a big one. Getting rid of Frank Clark, who really didn't do anything, and turning it over to the young guys and trusting them. Like, it takes a lot of guts and balls to be able to make that much of a change. But it really speaks to, especially like how effective he's been recently, how much maybe he didn't trust them or like them, or just didn't feel like they were the right group before.
Yeah, they weren't flowing. How
poorly this defense play. Like, can we give that entire room comeback player of the year?
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, and as much as we want to give Sean Payton possibly coach of the year for putting the Denver Broncos in, playoff position and prime position, if you will, to where, you're talking about them in like, going to the playoffs, like you would almost have to give it to coach of the year. You almost want to give Vance Joseph coach of the year, which, I mean, by that token, it would almost be like coordinator of the year, right? Or like assistant coordinator, or I don't know how they do, like a defensive coordinator job or something, like coordinator of the year or defensive assistant of the year or something like that. But like, yeah, you would almost have to give it to him. And I think that, for the Broncos, like one of the key players, like we mentioned it, J-Mac, like Jaquan McMillan is like one of the key like representatives of like why we're seeing what we're seeing. Like he is playing at that Chris Harris level where he's instinctual, and with those instincts, he's playmaking. And I joked with Sayre, obviously, because he's a big, Iowa Hawkeyes fan, but it's also, the truth. Like, so a lot of Hawkeyes fans that are Bronco fans maybe want Cooper DeJean. And if you guys have not had the opportunity to watch Cooper DeJean from Iowa, he's kind of the same player. Like he's instinctual and like, the way he plays, the versatility, like he's exactly the way J-Mac is playing. And like, when you have that kind of ability on your defense, it at least has somewhat, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be sustainable for the long run, but you can still find yourself of creating these turnovers at, at least a decent enough pace. Maybe not say like maybe with the way the Dallas Cowboys defense is doing it, but like you can at least do it so that you are providing, a winning culture for you on the defensive side of the ball and providing the offense good opportunities for them to score, which is like in turn, like that's like the biggest thing. It's like one of the biggest things is like, that's the thing in the past is like whenever the defense would create those turnovers, the offense would never reward the defense by putting it in the end zone. Now you're talking about a situation where with those turnovers, they're in an ideal situation now where we're putting it in the end zone, and that's why they're so efficient now in the red zone.
Well, speaking of J-Mac real quick, and Matty kind of started this ball rolling a little bit when he said that he was who we thought Demore Mathis was going to be. I'm going to take it a bit of a step further. Jaquan McMillan has kind of been who we thought Bryce Callahan was going to be in the slot when we signed him from Chicago back in 2020, because he kind of was going to be that like super physical enforcer in the slot who was like at the time had that rep of like one of the best slot corners in the league in the nickel, and he's like blitzes guys and hits the quarterback and makes plays and gets picks, and he kind of was a bit disappointing. Like he was pretty okay that first year, and they had all those foot injuries, and J-Mac has kind of just like he's just turned into that. Like
even K'Wan Williams
solidified that spot.
K'Wan Williams was also really good. No, I still like K'Wan Williams. I'm specifically talking about Bryce. What were you saying, Keckler?
I was just saying, he solidified that spot. We kind of wanted Bryce to solidify.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Now we touched a little bit about, the edge room, about, how important it was with the edge room of guys like, when Gregory was gone, Frank Clark was gone, it allowed guys like Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper, Baron Browning, the opportunity to shine. Sadly, with this Detroit game coming up, the Broncos are going to be without Nick Benito. Now, I think that one of the nice little wrinkles that you are seeing with this Denver Broncos defense is why I think they have the possibility of not skipping a beat is because of the fact that you've seen Drew Sanders being sprinkled in a little bit and him used in this possible like edge rusher versatility type role where they could possibly use him in either the outside linebacker package or the inside linebacker passage and edge rusher. Like everything that we talked about, right, Brandon, like as far as his draft process, like everything that you could have scripted is like an ideal hidden gem. Like it's just like he seems like the kind of player that you're looking at it from the standpoint of like that's a chess piece you could possibly use with Benito missing this game. And so I don't necessarily see them missing a beat too much within that room.
I just want to point out that we are one touchdown away from the Raiders scoring 70 on the Chargers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my fiance keeps showing me the score.
Oh man.
Anyway, what?
That's where when you said that, like, every single game is a must win, like playoff kind of game from here, I almost was like, except the Charger game. If they play anything like this, it's going to be the only one that doesn't, like any given Sunday where we might be able to chalk this one up as a W if they play like this.
This is low key making me a little bit scared for the Raiders game at the end of the year. I mean,
that's the flip side. Is next week after that, then we'll have the Raiders. So we got to see both sides of this coin at the end of the year.
Wasn't there some talk that Aiden O'Connell was going to get benched?
Yeah.
Anyway,
guess not.
The thought here is like we are going to be so battle tested and ready. If we do make it in the playoffs, there might only be one other team that has the mental fortitude that we would have at that point, and that's Buffalo if they run the table and get there, especially with how hard their schedule is down the stretch.
Yeah.
But like how many teams have been in playoff mode since October? Yeah. Like that, and point. that's essentially where we're gonna be, right? We have to win. We have to win these games. We got a little bit of help this weekend, which might allow us to like have the little sliver hair of our chinny chin chin type of margin for error, but it's so very small. If we're gonna drop a game, this is the one to do it because we need those wins in the AFC. Which is remarkable that all the stats say that if we win this game, actually that has the biggest margin for increasing our chances of making the playoffs.
Yep.
Like it has nothing to do with our like tiebreaker scenario. It's just the wins and losses.
Because they're not an AFC team, but it's still funny how much it jumps. Yeah. I was thinking that earlier.
So I'm just saying with the way we play and where our mindset has been, like we get punched in the mouth. We're like, well, we got nothing left to lose. We started 1-5. And now we're here, like literally started from the bottom. Now we're here. Like Drake,
yeah.
Now the whole team's here. Like Drake's going to be a Broncos fan before January. We're in that spot. And I mean, the Dolphins are banged up. The Chiefs aren't what the Chiefs were. The Ravens are like this a little bit now. Like, folks are
Browns on
vulnerable.
IR.
Yep.
Literally every team in the NFL, but maybe the 49ers and
they
I
stay
guess
healthy.
Dallas, how they're playing lately, like, is vulnerable.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like, we got just as good of a chance as anybody.
Yep.
You
I
know,
think
one
the
of
Eagles are the most fake 10-win team in the league, to be honest.
you know what, I think that one of the things, and as we transition a little bit to say both the Detroit Lions game, but also like the playoff probability and like the rooting interest, right? And I know this is something that Sayer mentioned on his on like the Bleacher Report app, but like I think that one of the reasons why I do somewhat feel good about the Detroit Lions game is the fact that the Houston Texans game happened. Like, remember how, like, and you guys mentioned, like, remember how, like, massive the swing was if you beat the Houston Texans, how the probability of the playoff is after that game if you win. Like, it's astronomical. Like, it's astronomical. And so this one, even though it's the NFC, like, you have this opportunity now where you can create quite a bit of separation from yourself, and make it so that you truly control your own destiny. I think it was Henry Chisholm of DNVR that actually tweeted, like, if they beat the Detroit Lions, they control their own destiny at that point. Now you can definitely, you definitely would have to win the rest of your games if you do lose that Detroit Lions game. But, you definitely will just create this idea for yourself that you will be sitting pretty if you do. And I think that one of the things that is going in your favor, and Keckler, you know this because I said it in the in that Bleacher Report app with Sayer, but like the Broncos actually have, and obviously the Lions are going to be possibly in this as well, but both the Lions and Denver are going to find themselves in unique territory. They're going to find themselves in unique territory. Denver, to talk positively about Denver, if they beat the Lions, they will have swept the NFC North on the year because they beat the Bears, they beat the Vikings, and they beat the Packers, right?
Packers.
They beat the Packers.
Well,
now
the reverse is also true.
The reverse is
And then
also
flip.
true. Yeah,
Yep.
the reverse is also true. If the Lions beat us, they will have beaten the entire AFC West. So
The sweep is on the line.
yeah, so
The
truly,
amount of brooms that are about to come out, just like the Nuggets Western Conference Finals.
yeah. But I think because they had the Houston Texans game, I think will mentally prepare them for this Lions game. I don't like they may or may not win, but I think that it will mentally prepare them. So like these lapses or getting down, 10-0 or, getting in, say, and I mean, we called it like it is. And, with the CJ Stroud and Alex Singleton, then like keeping your emotions in check, right? Like keeping your emotions in check and not resulting in possibly a team going up 10-0 on you. Right. Like, so I think that Lions game, I think this on Saturday, which is another primetime game, will, I think, put the Broncos in some decent situation where if they do win, they'll find them in a pretty good spot.
And I think we have more to gain and more to lose. So that's we got both those things kind of working in our favor. I think the Lions, they can afford, another couple losses. And and like you said, the mental toughness. I just think we're more battle tested and already in that mode of being able to win those games that really matter. And I think this game matters more for us.
Yeah.
I am terrified of their weapons offensively, though.
Yeah.
The amount of times that we haven't been able to stop the run recently, although it's kind of gotten a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then going up against that offensive line and David Montgomery, who seems to just like have a career rejuvenation.
And Jahmyr Gibbs.
And then Jahmyr Gibbs, who's like suddenly being utilized and is a complete flamethrower of a human being. That does scare me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then like Amon-Ra St. Brown is an incredible wide receiver and Samuel Board is a great tight end. And the only thing that's holding them back is Jared Goff has kind of gone back to being slightly mid recently. And he's really bad when blitzed. So put 2 and 2 together there. So we'll see. And we also still have,
we need to rattle them early.
Yeah, I think we still have the most turnovers in the league in the past 7 weeks. So I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to imply it.
I think we need to get in their heads early. We need to take the
first play of the game, pick 6.
Yep.
And to use obviously the Star Wars analogy, it is the master versus the apprentice, if you will. It is, Sean Payne against Dan Campbell. So the emotions are going to be riding high. The emotions are going to be riding high for, for both of them. And it just feels like, you mentioned possibly how the Lions, despite the fact that they've been struggling the last, handful of weeks, right, and they've lost games, it feels like they actually could afford this game and lose this game, because we know that the NFC, and Matty's a big basketball fan, so and for people who get this reference, but the NFC is like the Eastern Conference, right? Like the NFC is like the Eastern Conference in basketball. Like you can actually skate by, and they're like one win away from 10, and they'll still get in. They'll still obviously be, seed. They'll probably end up still winning the division, obviously. But depending on what the Packers do. But
Vikings, Packers, yeah. Vikings are ahead of them by 1 game.
Nick Mullins season, let's go.
So I don't know. Like they could possibly afford to lose another game. But by that same token, they wouldn't. You would almost, like, for the Lions' sake, not lose one though by the rest of the way, because you would have to get to 10.
Well, their closest competition is the Vikings, 2 games back behind them, who are going through their own identity crisis and flipping through quarterbacks. And we're trying to clip at the heels of the Chiefs and Mahomes. So that's where it just feels like we're like right there ready to seize. And they're like, yeah, we're a couple games ahead of these guys that like aren't even really that big of a threat. That's where I feel like there's so much more pressure for us.
Yeah. Brandon?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, whatever's going on with the Vikings, like that Josh Dobbs insanity run didn't just end. It like collapsed into a smoldering pile of flames.
I think a lot of people are waiting for their eyebrows to grow and they're feeling a lot of regret.
Oh my God. But yeah, I think we have, well, 2 things. We have more momentum going into this game, and we have more on the line going into this game. And I think both of those things are enough of an X factor that people that are picking the Lions, I'm not saying that it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a very close game, but I think you can't discount momentum enough. Even if we lost that Texans game, that was completely winnable. Like if that was a blowout, that might have made it a little bit worse.
Yeah.
But being so close to winning 7 in a row, like we're going to go in there with our hair on fire, and they know it too, because Dan Campbell, who I still picked for my coach of the year, and you know what? I wouldn't be mad because he's a great coach, but Sean Payton now even said like, yeah, Sean Payton wants to come in here and embarrass us. All I'm saying, we got to protect their kneecaps because they're going to be going after him.
Someone in the comments said, have you seen the TV series Falling Sky? I think you mean Falling Skies. And yes, I have seen it, but I don't know what the reference and connection is.
Yeah,
I have not seen it.
Yes, I have watched it.
And Bawana, I think you mean Nick Mullins. Yeah,
Nick
Mullins. They will be
Browning
playing.
the Bengals.
They actually will be playing the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken. So that will be.
Oh, right, yeah.
That will be Jake Browning.
Jake Browning
Did you
versus
see
Nick
what-
Mullins, quarterback battle of the century.
Well, and then at the wide receivers, the college teammates, did you see Jamar Chase said, I'm easily the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL? Like, that's great.
I did not see that,
That's
but
awesome.
that's a very wide receiver thing to say. Isn't because Justin Jefferson
That's hilarious.
is injured again, right? Like he had to go to the hospital, I think.
He's
After
questionable.
Because like I think it was because Josh Dobbs threw like a medicine ball and sent him to the hospital.
Yes.
She got like absolutely just rocked.
The funniest
immediately.
meme was the goat that they pulled out of the ditch, and then he just ran and fell right back in the ditch.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was cracking up at that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Like, I think we win this game.
So the Broncos. So we'll go around the room, but the Broncos lose this game. Why?
Because we can't stop Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery.
They control the pace of the game.
I think that's our biggest weakness. That is also probably currently their biggest strength.
they need to get us out of pocket and control it. And if they're able to do that, that's where I was saying we need to kind of attack and take the narrative over in the beginning. I think if they're able to kind of control the pace of the game, they might have that strength that matches against our weakness.
If we can make Jared Goff throw the ball, because he's not a runner. Jared Goff doesn't run. He just stands there and throws the ball away, completes the pass, or takes a sack. If you can make him pass, and he's been not great recently, like, you're also kind of playing right into the heart of the defense and like giving us more opportunities to create turnovers. Same thing too, though. I mean, like with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, like still attack the ball when you're going after them, because you can create some fumbles there, I think. But that's going to be really, I think the biggest key to this is if they can get the ground game going early. That's, if we lose, I think that's what would kill us. But if we can stop that, and if we can actually also get the ground game going a bit, I think that'll be helpful. Aiden Hutchinson is kind of scary, but I feel like they've sort of fallen off a little bit on that side of the ball from like when they were before, like how good their trenches were really in general. Like their offensive line was incredible. Their defensive line was really good. They're still good. I just think they're maybe not as good as they seemed earlier in the season. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that I see that Baron Browning or Nick Nito has more sacks than Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, what about you, Matty? Why do you feel like, say the Broncos lose this game? Like, why would they lose this game?
Why could they?
Yeah,
let's say could. If they get 35 rush attempts between Montgomery and Gibbs, we lose the game. Because that means that they're able to sustain that many drives. They had that much success against good running backs. We're giving up 6+ yards per carry, right? Like, the reason why Buffalo lost is because they didn't just feed Cook and feed Cook and feed Cook. The reason why the Vikings lost was because they thought that the Pastronaut was real. And that mother is not real. So,
please make that a meme.
That was great.
If they stick to the run, they're going to be in great shape. On the passing side of their offense, I'm also terrified because we get into zone blitzes a lot. 2 players that have killed zone this year are the sun god Amon-Ra St. Brown and the rookie Sam Laporta, right? And they kill the zone in the middle of the field finding pockets. And they do it for chunks at a time.
Yeah,
12 yards, 20 yards, 37 yards with the catch and run. Like, it's a real thing for that offense. And they put their guys in position to get yards after the catch. If we're going to make Goff throw, make him throw outside and down the field. Make him be accurate along the sidelines. Because at home, when the crowd's going to let him get to his reads, they're going to let him get to what he needs to get to, before that 15-second cutoff and all those things. They stick it in the belly and pull it, and then the linebackers overcommit, and you got Laporta, you got 14 coming across the field. It could be bad news bears for us if we go into zone blitz mode and we don't get home. So I'm terrified of not stopping the run. I'm terrified of them using the run against us when we're in a zone and we're not playing straight up against their skill players on the outside. So there are a lot of routes to failure for our defense if we don't win our one-on-one battles.
And I do think this is also where not having Nick Benito really sucks because he's the one. Nick Benito has more sacks than Aiden Hutchinson this season. So he's getting home a lot, and not having him out there, we're going to have to find a way around it. I think that's going to be another kind of big thing to keep an eye on. In terms of like the X factors that might go against us is not having Nick Benito. I know Greg Dulcich is also out. I really didn't expect him to play coming off of IR. What I didn't realize, and I just learned recently, is actually it's because he got injured again in practice.
So
Talk
he's
about
the goat.
Falling back in the ditch.
What about you,
yeah, that's
Keckler?
bad.
What about you, Keckler? They would lose this game. Why?
I think I said as far as I don't remember. I actually don't remember what my answer was, but I felt like I was first or second to answer that. I would also say that maybe it's because that with the greater challenge to our defense, that the offense doesn't step up in a way that I feel like they might need to a little bit, where we got to be better on third downs than we were last week. Got to be a little bit more clutch at helping our defense out because they have been carrying us through some of these offensive difficulties. So maybe it's because the offense doesn't step up when they need to.
Yeah, I think all of those are spot on. I think the one that really solidifies it for me is that running game with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, you get shades of Darren Sproles or even like Austin Eckler when like he was actually like really really good, out of the backfield, and the way that they utilize him. It really does kind of strike fear. And I think that, we also can't lose sight of the fact that there's a familiar name that's kind of resurging a little bit within the Detroit Lions. And that would be, a guy by the name of the Broncos legend, Khalif Raymond, is resurfacing again a little bit with that Lions offense. So don't lose sight of him. I mean, he seems like a middle of the field type of wide receiver. So just when you think that, you'll be possibly, using maybe the sidelines for, an Amon St. Brown, or even the middle of the field with an Amon St. Brown, or even a Sam Laporta. Don't forget about a guy like a Khalif Raymond, so be on your P's and Q's. And I think I'm really curious to see what that chess match will be for, Vance Joseph against, Brian Johnson, right? And Brian Johnson. So I'm really curious to see. There's too many, it's Ben Johnson and Brian Johnson, right? Ben Johnson's the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they got Brian Johnson, with the Detroit Lions. But we know that if the Broncos, do come away,
those flipped.
Is it flipped?
Yeah, Ben Johnson's the Lions offensive coordinator.
I mean, let's be fair. They both begin with B. It's a very basic name.
Brian Johnson.
Ben and Brian.
I'm sorry. Did you just say names that start with B are basic?
No, I said both of those are very basic names. I mean,
Keckler and I are going to find you.
I mean, you definitely have the quickest, path to find me.
My fiance is Brianna, so I mean, you got 3 people in the room that are pissed.
Oh, he's gonna kill you twice now.
No, but yeah,
he's gonna kill you and piss on your grave.
Oh no, he says.
Yeah, but now, as far as why the Broncos, if they win the game, why? We'll start with you, Keckler.
Yeah, go for it. Oh God, don't show me that, Matty. Stop it. Go ahead.
I mean, well, the easy answer is because the offense does better on third down. That's kind of my biggest frustration from last week. Is just I remember just seeing Sayre. He was tweeting early in the game where he was just like, the Broncos can't convert a third, and then it was like secession after that, and it was still that was still a problem until later in the game where they hit a string of them where they were knocking some third downs out. But I think the offense needs to match him and maybe step up a little bit if Detroit starts running all over us and taking advantage of the Porta and Sun God combination. We're gonna need some Russ. That's where I feel like it's gonna be like 2 tutties for Sutton. Like we're gonna need two red zone touchdowns between Russ and Sutton to cap this one off.
I don't know. You can't really count out Adam Troutman. I mean, the guy, out of nowhere just decides to one, provide some yak, which no one really expected after the catch. Mm-hmm. And that was all. And what you're referencing might have actually been the drive of the season. Like as far as like the length of what they were going through, I think that the Chargers even scored after that, and then they basically just put the nail in the coffin. And I don't know. I'd have to go look at it, but it was over a 6-minute drive, maybe even a 7-minute drive. They converted 3 or 4 third down conversions, and then Sean Payton went to the high school, playbook, and even I should say a playbook that the Chargers shouldn't know also well, which was the playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, by the way, the Chargers blew another 24-point lead, by the way. But so he went into his bag and a bag of tricks, and that was the touchdown pass to Troutman. So I think
it could be Kroll, dude. I liked Kroll a little bit last week too.
Yeah. So, but I think that drive specifically is a recipe for success that you've got to maintain in this game. Is you've got to be successful in the running game, and let's be creative and not use Samaje Perine in those 2-minute offenses. As I mean, like he's great on the 2-minute. Let's see if it expands a little bit more and use him a little bit more. In both the the running game and of course the passing game that's not in just the 2-minute drill. So. And let's see if we can get Javonte Williams going. Obviously, it seems like it just seems like he's having a hard time getting going. It seems like he's running the ball rather well, but like it just feels like, again, I'm saying that just from the simple point of him coming off of an ACL.
I was gonna say it's almost like he's a running back coming off of 2 knee injuries.
Yeah.
But I get it. I was gonna say, I mean, he did get his first rushing touchdown since 2021, which was awesome. But the thing I was going to say, Adam Troutman and Samaje Perine low-key have been 2 of the most
sneaky
contributing free agency signings on this team, and they were definitely not even close to 2 of the biggest when they happened. So props to Sean Payton for knowing who was going after there. But I think my answer to this question in terms of like, if we do win, what does it come down to? I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to that Russell Wilson magic in the fourth quarter.
You were going to say something, Matty.
Go for it.
I think it's going to come down to just protecting Russ and allowing him to feel comfortable in the pocket. I know he leads the NFL and throws outside of the pocket, but you got to be able to do some things on schedule and put the defense on its heels a bit within script, right? So we script things early on. We've actually had quite a bit of early success to start games offensively, and we have been atrocious to start the second half. I want to say it's like 10 plus of our games we've started the ball in the second half, and like it's just been historically bad. So like getting a good start in the second half is obviously important for us so that we can keep momentum going. It's like we get into the break and then our offense breaks type of thing. And the way to do that is to be better on script and to be better within a system. And so like obviously, win on first down, put yourself in position on second down, don't even get to third down, sustain drives. Like that's great. That's fine and dandy. But a lot of times I'm noticing Russell Wilson bail a little early and then something comes open right after he decides to just bail instead of taking a step in. We noticed on the touchdown to Sutton that he stepped up. He stepped into the throw, and we actually got the moon ball that we've been waiting for, that rainbow ball that comes directly down to the receiver that the defender doesn't have a chance to get to. That's been our problem is balls have been kind of thrown up where anybody could get to it downfield. The one X factor that I got to have it, is Marvin Mims. We have got to get him something down the field. I don't care if it doesn't connect. We got to throw the ball to him and be willing to stretch the defense attacking with him. We saw it early on. We saw it against Washington. We saw it against Chicago. Like, we've seen it this year, and it's just been gone since like September.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Like, but I will say I think that the thing that as far as the subtlety that is growing in confidence, and it's maybe not just the Marvin Mims thing, but it's the screen game. Like, if the last couple weeks has been like the screen game has actually done something, right? Like the screen game has actually done something. I say it from the wide receiver screens, and like Marvin Mims has been a little bit more positive, right? Like he's been a little bit more positive now in terms of the screen game. Obviously, the reason why I say that is because 9 yards is way better than -2 or 1 yard. I mean, so it's certainly better there. I think that they absolutely have to get him involved. But the reason why I think maybe they're doing the screen game, I guess, is because everybody, and you guys know this. I'm kind of like big on like the sports psychology part of it. And so I think that maybe one of the reasons why maybe they're doing the screens to Marvin is also to give him a little bit more confidence, like down the field, so that he can be able to, once that option presents itself, it gets the other team thinking, okay, Marvin Mims will be a screen option, right? Marvin Mims will be a screen option. And then just when you get a house call for Marvin Mims, that opportunity presents itself. And then you actually look at it from the standpoint of, to what you're saying, Matty, is that you'll get that house call with Marvin, and then you can get maybe a few deep shots here and there from Marvin.
Something else we're going to need is a lot of luck. We're going to need a lot of luck.
That's right.
There we go. There's the belly rub for all of you degenerates that have been
There it
waiting.
is.
50
It
minutes
happened.
for it.
That's right.
They're with no shuffle, not even a shuffle on the side. So, ball game, it's already over. So figure out something else to do a Saturday because the Broncos game's decided.
Unfortunately, I already do have something else to do. I'll be at the Nuggets game. Kills me.
Well, we'll give you a pass on that one. We'll give you a pass. So transitioning now to as far as, kind of like as far as like the rooting interest, right? And Brandon, you're a script writer. They're like, let's script the perfect ending of this. The Broncos are going to be going to the playoffs. Why? Put your movie script on a little bit. And
to defeat the Miami Dolphins in the first round.
Okay.
And then to defeat the Chiefs after that.
And then face the Baltimore Ravens potentially in the yeah. Is that what?
And then against my Niners, and then this has got to be the first Super Bowl. And I don't know if I was alive. Maybe it might have been the first Super Bowl I was alive for in '87. Was Niners Broncos? I want to say maybe, but definitely not in my memory at all. So having to root against my second favorite team after we defeat the Dolphins and the Chiefs, that would be pretty special.
Yeah, that '89 Super Bowl was ridiculous. They just
okay. So I was 2. I was born in '87, so I think maybe it was my second Super Bowl. Yeah,
I mean, I guess, and to continue your movie script thing, so I'm guessing they do it right. That's your script. The Broncos make the playoffs. They
absolutely. I think this Lions game is the most indicative of that, and whether we can. But we got 3 very winnable games after that. This is kind of obviously we got Any Given Sunday, and we got 2 rivalry games. So you can never just count them out, but. I think those last 3 are easier than this one. And if we come out of this game, especially with the dub, like I like the playoff chances increase by like 50% or whatever, 40-something%. I think that's pretty accurate to where we got a great shot. And like you said, we're battle tested and we got a mental toughness. We're almost still the underdogs from that game, from that Dolphins game. And I feel like I don't want to avoid the Dolphins. I don't want to miss them. I feel like if we win the Super Bowl and don't beat the Dolphins in the playoffs,
that's our Super Bowl.
Well, no, it just feels like we still got humiliated by a team this year.
Yeah.
That it almost puts an asterisk by it to where I feel like in order to fully redeem and like claim this title in the way that it deserves, we have to go through the Dolphins and beat the Dolphins.
Yeah. It's literally the Karate Kid, right? Like we got jumped by the Cobra Kai.
Yep.
And we were the underdog and everybody counted us out. And then Elizabeth Shue gives us a little bit of attention and we get some confidence and we start getting some stuff going. And then
Vance Joseph is Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
We learned how to wax on, wax off, and then we wax that ass in the playoffs. I love it.
That's it.
Oh, that's amazing.
That was great.
Matty's on one tonight.
Yeah. First the belly rub, right? And then of course the Karate Kid reference. So the quarterbacks, right? They will be playing Jared Goff. They will be playing Easton Stick. We'll see if that continues, possibly if the Chargers go through a coaching change. They'll go through Easton Stick and then Aiden O'Connell, right? So it's crazy to think about that. That's the road the Denver Broncos are going to be on.
Bailey Zappi?
And Bailey Zappi, of course, yeah. He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, after moving through Mahomes and Allen in back-to-back weeks, like I'm just not shaken.
And
at our ability to do that.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump a little bit now as far as some of those transition into like NFL picks a little bit. But with that, of course, go to the rooting interest. There are games that are like ideal, games that are going to be putting the Broncos possibly like even if they lose, it's still in the hunt as far as the AFC playoff picture. One, of course, is the Vikings and Bengals. Mm-hmm. The Vikings and Bengals. This was something that Buwana Beast mentioned, of course, with the Jake Browning comment. And by the way, I need anybody that's in the chat and watching this, let us know how you feel the Broncos will do against the Detroit Lions. And do you think they come out with the W? Is there a aspect of this Detroit Lions game from the Lions perspective that scares you as a Broncos fan? So I mean, like, what is possibly, something that might scare you? But as far as the game, like, is there a game that maybe we haven't touched on that you feel might actually favor the Broncos? Vikings and Bengals. We obviously want the Minnesota Vikings, right? We want this is not going to end up being a Pasternak game. It seems like Nick Mullins is going to be taking the reins of that, and it's going to be the Nick Mullins show versus the somehow surprisingly red hot Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm guessing, yeah, I think there's actually a window where the Vikings do come away with this. The question is just, will the Browning insanity die for the last couple games? What say you, Keckler?
Man, I'm certainly rooting for the Vikings. I know they're without Madison. I think they just ruled that today that he's not playing. But I have a feeling Bengals are going to pull it out, and it's not going to matter. I want the Vikings to win, but I don't know. I got a feeling that hot streak's going to continue, and the Vikings are have too many question marks. Too much of it's in flux. I like Nick Mullins was a Niner quarterback a couple years ago,
mm-hmm.
When they had to go to the playoffs with like their fourth string quarterback. So I like Mullins, but I think Bengals are going to stay hot and they're going to win this game, but it's still not going to matter. It's not going to affect us.
Brandon.
Oh, this one's interesting. I definitely think it's going to be the Bengals. Like, Jake Browning looks pretty legit. They almost look like they didn't lose much of a step losing Joe Burrow. And obviously Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Jake Browning, but it's kind of insane. And obviously Jamar Chase still exists and is still a receiver for them. And I think that's what it's going to come down to is they have Jamar Chase, and the Vikings probably won't have Justin Jefferson. Was he officially ruled out yet?
No, he's questionable.
I heard he's questionable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to assume he probably doesn't play. I think that's what it's going to come down to. But even with that, I mean, I still think the Bengals win. I think Jake Browning is just better than Nick Mullins. This will be interesting to see. Like, when Nick Mullins looked like really good in Kyle Shanahan's offense, like, was it Nick Mullins or was it Kyle Shanahan? So I think it'll be the Bengals.
Matty.
Gross. The comment. The Bengals are at home. Talk about a team that's tested, that's been there. They've won games at the highest of levels. There are a lot of guys that just know how to win big games. They're not going to drop this one at home. It's going to be ugly. Like, it could be like a 16-13 type of game here, but Bengals are going to wrap it up.
Because I'm a Broncos fan and because I want nice things, and it's the Christmas season and it's the season of giving. I'm gonna say that the Vikings get the dub. I'm gonna say the Vikings get the dub.
I believe we need the Vikings to get the win in order to help our playoff chances.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So in my orange colored glasses and in the season of giving and, in the season of wanting nice things, I have the Vikings over the Bengals.
And it might depend on whether Justin Jefferson plays or not. And that will be a fun battle between him and Chase.
If we get to see it.
If we get to.
Dude, I would love it if they would just line up across from each other the whole game. Just like Travis Hunter times 2. Just go at it. That'd be awesome.
That'd be so great to see like wide receivers on the opposite side, just at least for a few snaps, like battle against each other on a regular basis.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Another game, of course, that is of rooting interest is another game on Saturday. And so as we know that the Broncos have the later game. The Broncos are at 6:15 on NFL Network. And you have the Vikings and Bengals as the early game, and then the Steelers and Colts. The Steelers and Colts.
We starting with me?
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, go right ahead.
I think it is Colts on this one. I know they're favored, but I think the Steelers are also kind of in flux and not knowing who they are. And you guys are much more in tune with like some of the specifics of these things. I'm like going on like kind of more gut primal instinct right now, and I'm just I even got like in my we're just entering into fantasy, playoffs this year, and one of my backups is Kenny, dude, and he's just not making me excited for the future of this dynasty as one of my prospects. But I just think the Steelers as a whole, I don't know who they are. I don't think they know who they are. I think the Colts have a little. They're playing a little bit more centered right now, and I think they come away with this.
Matty.
Minshew mania.
Minshew
Business
mania
in the front, party in the back with the jorts on. Let's get it.
Yep.
And they're playing at home, and that matters.
Yep.
And they're still in it for their division. So as crazy as it is to say that. So yeah, the Steelers, they're just too up and down.
Yep.
And they have a couple guys on offense, right? They got 2 backs, they got 2 receivers and a tight end that can make plays, but they don't have anybody to put the ball in their hands. So Colts all the way.
Yep.
Brandon.
Definitely Colts. The Steelers are kind of a mess. Like, never in my wildest dreams did I think that this season I would see people calling for Mike Tomlin's head. And I've seen it.
True.
I've seen it.
Okay. We've talked about, sorry to interrupt you, but we've talked about how like entitled Mahomes is. How damn entitled are Steelers fans to never know what a losing season feels like? They could kiss my whole ass. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, but also they haven't really known what an actual good season is either. Cause like they've just been, they've had a lot of winning seasons, but had that gotten them anywhere? They just,
Montez Burfict saw that.
They're just mid. They're just kind of hang out there.
Yeah.
They're almost like the AFC Cowboys.
Yeah.
Whereas
I think
the
Cowboys
past
win a
few
bit more.
decades, like they just haven't ever been able to get anything substantial done. Yeah. They're meandering in the middle and maybe not as bad as some other teams are, but it still feels like they don't have that killer winning instinct.
Oh, 9-7. I know it's not 9-7 anymore,
Dude.
because of the extra game, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm picking the Colts.
All right. That's perfect. That's the perfect comparison. And you just pissed off 2 extremely historic franchises all in one statement. So that's awesome. Like, we got to clip that. That's got to go on Twitter. We got to just blast that everywhere. That's perfect.
Josh, if you're listening,
If you're here, Josh, you have your mission should you choose to accept it.
You're right. Bawana, well, actually, let's get into that game. I think Trevor is playing, right? Like, I think Trevor Lawrence is playing, and they played the Baltimore Ravens. This is probably going to be in a quick one, though. The Ravens will probably get that win. Of course, but we know that the Ravens are streaky, and at least with the way things are going about it right now. And I mean, so it would not surprise me after the last week's game that the Jaguars had for them also to just come out and be like, hey, you know what? On Sunday Night Football in a primetime game, and Trevor Lawrence, you know what? I'm actually going to play like the Trevor Lawrence, which was, a top draft pick, maybe one of the best draft picks we've ever seen.
I was going to say,
Clemson. Yeah.
Is it just me, or does it feel like Trevor Lawrence really has not been meeting that Andrew Luck 2.0 draft hype that he was given?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm picking the Ravens.
But obviously, rooting interest is Ravens over Jaguars, and I actually think that as far as if you're,
I do think they win, honestly.
Yeah, it would be Ravens.
I think there's this sneaky outside chance. I wouldn't put money on it just because I do think that like it's leaning Ravens, but I almost just see that in the distance of like the possibility that the Jaguars pull something off, and this is one of the last losses that the Ravens take this year somehow.
I mean the Rams, right? Like last week, the Rams went toe to toe.
That was a good game
with the Ravens and almost pulled it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ravens.
It is at Jaguars, so
it is at Jaguars.
You never know.
Another one that possibly could be in that same vein, maybe actually to a lesser extent, actually a little bit harder to predict, would be the Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills. What Buffalo Bills team is going to show up?
Hopefully the team that loses, because we need the Cowboys to win.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely think that with the way that the Bills played against the Chiefs, that they at least have a shot. But also with the way that the Dallas Cowboys are playing right now, and keyword is right now, it's really hard for, I would say, a team to actually stop them. But also we know that the Bills are a really streaky team. Like the Bills are such a streaky team that, you know, it's hard to say that like a win against a mediocre Kansas City Chiefs team from like, and I say that this year, right? Like a mediocre Kansas City Chiefs team for like this year, that they beat them, but still it's enough to give them confidence to challenge the Cowboys.
And they have, they're looking up at the playoffs. They're looking up at us. They're looking up at these other teams. They're on the outside. So certainly, like, you know, talking earlier about who has more to lose, you know, I think that the Bills are in this position where they got to treat this game like their Super Bowl, you know, where they're going to be a couple games out from even a wild card spot potentially with that. I think it's like 7 teams tied kind of in that region, right? It feels like, especially coming off that, you know, win against the Chiefs, I think that they got to play this game like this is the most important one they have left. And I do think they have,
it might be, honestly,
the tools and to be able to pull this off and upset the Cowboys. And I think the Cowboys do need to get, if they're going to make a deeper run, I think they need to get humbled a little bit by the end of the season. So I think that might be this game. This is one I would actually probably put money on, is I would probably lean in the favor of the Bills upsetting them.
Interesting. I'm going to pick the Cowboys, and well, let me just check something real quick, because this could make all the difference.
It's -2.
No, not that.
-2 for Buffalo, by the way.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure Deron Bland is going to get another pick 6. I thought he left that last game injured, but I think he's okay. I'm going to take the Cowboys, but I do think the Bills will actually make it interesting. And it'll be like a fun game, but I'm going to take the Cowboys. I think this will be a really good game.
As long as Brandon Cooks lines up on his own side of the field, I think that the Cowboys are going to win. So,
all right. So I'm going Cowboys, but the reason why I say that obviously is, you know, just everything, of course, that happens with this NFL season. You don't know, and especially and by the way, like this is actually maybe their toughest game. Like this is their toughest game of the stretch of the way. Like, because up until say the Miami game at the end of the season, which could, you know, make or break possibly that division, depending on what Miami does. Although Miami's end of the season is brutal, mind you. Miami's end of the season is rather brutal.
Yes.
All right. Now this one actually could be tricky to where you actually might be talking about an upset, because the Cleveland Browns are reeling. the Cleveland Browns are actually maybe not even call an upset. The Browns are reeling right now. They've got like numerous injuries. I want to say that they got an edge rusher that's injured. They have like many injuries, I think, even on the defensive side of the ball. You don't know if Joe Flacco is going to keep it up. The Bears are coming in, obviously, playing rather well in the last game. Do they sneak out a victory against the Cleveland Browns?
I think the Bears pull it off. I was telling a friend or a customer earlier today that I would love to see us being able to play and beat Flacco in the playoffs. But obviously, we'd have to win out from the wild card spots and make our way to there. And probably won't happen. But I think that's another one of those, like you're saying, what's your storybook for like the playoffs? It would be kind of cool to meet up with Flacco at some point. I really like when they picked him up and then we played him. Like I was really hoping they were going to put Flacco in. That was going to be the first game of the Browns playing against the Broncos. But yeah, man, I don't have faith in the Browns winning, more than 2 games in this last 4-game stretch. I think there's just way too many question marks, and I think they've been overperforming. And so I think the Bears, who've been underperforming, I think this is one where kind of the scales get balanced and the Bears pull it off.
Matty?
Well, in the playoffs, as long as we didn't let Cedric Tillman get behind our safety, I think we'd be fine playing against Joe Flacco.
Yep.
Freaking still have nightmares about Raheem the Dream.
Oh, no.
Justin Fields is playing for his career here, I think, and he's balling.
Mm-hmm.
He does this every year, and like him and DJ Moore just have such a one of the best connections in football.
Yeah,
he gets that dude the ball. He force feeds it to him. I really see that Bears defense is so much better than people give them credit for because of their slow start. Bears are a tough out. They are a tough out. 2 wins that the Broncos have are the Bears and the Packers that didn't look great at the time, and now they're maybe they look a little better. So
true.
Now, granted, that win against the Bears for the Broncos, Fields did kind of whatever he wanted until he got stripped, but they're balling. I take the Bears outright in a win here as 3-point underdogs on the road.
Yeah.
Other Brandon?
Yeah, I'm taking the Bears as well.
Nice.
Cleveland is just decimated with injury.
Yeah, like I said, on the surface it looks like an upset, but when you really peel back the layers, it's it's not really an upset.
It's not really an upset.
It's not really an upset at all. Now, as far as the entitled and snobby other team that is, in the AFC West, and actually they are in the AFC West so much that the Broncos are nipping. Broncos are nipping at their heels for the division lead that not every person in America ever thought was possible after that Miami Dolphins game. Do the Kansas City Chiefs obliterate the New England Patriots?
Yes, but in yellow.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. I think the question isn't so much will the Chiefs win? The question is just by how much.
Yes. And I think it's not going to be close, but it's not going to be a total blowout.
No, the Patriots defense is pretty good, but they're going to get smashed.
Smash.
It's so crazy to me. I know that's not this week. Next week, our last match against Belichick coached Patriots, probably, if the rumors are true. I've been thinking about that all week, and that's been tripping me out.
Yeah,
almost kind of sad about it.
That was also not a my bingo card.
Nope.
Yeah, them even keeping Belichick, and they actually draft a legend with their first overall pick or second overall pick, and they get Caleb Williams. There's a part of me that's oh, you know what? The Patriots are going to hold on to Belichick, and take Caleb Williams, right? And take Caleb Williams. And then Josh McDaniels is going to, crawl his way back to the New England Patriots. And, and then now we're back to, the way things were, right?
That would be wild.
All right. So now some final other games. The Houston Texans against the Tennessee Titans. The Houston Texans against the Tennessee Titans, which it's leaning like CJ Stroud is no longer going to play. And
like. Davis the Neck Mills versus Will. I don't even know which one to say. Banana Levis or Mayonnaise Coffee Levis.
Which, by the way, can we say how insane that comeback was, though? One, I mean, you blame the Miami Dolphins for that.
It's like 727-0 or something.
Yeah, but the fact that they were up by 14 points and they lost the game, like just an unreal comeback. And I mean, kudos to the Titans, and they have a real possibility to knock off the Houston Texans. So much so, if they beat the Houston Texans, probably, Jacksonville Jaguars are celebrating, right? Jacksonville is celebrating with the fact that possibly Baltimore may beat them on Sunday night. And I'm sure. By the way, have you guys seen actually where the Titans are kind of doing a little bit of a petty thing in this game, where they will actually be wearing the Houston Oilers uniforms against the Houston Texans?
Oh, that's
a flex.
Tough.
Actually,
that's a flex. I like it.
That's super tough.
Titans win. That's all I needed to hear.
The Titans for that, just for that alone. That's like done. Shannon Sharp reciting the defensive player's girlfriend's number. Like, that's what that is.
Wowza.
Yeah,
Titans.
I think regardless, I would still probably go Titans the way things are going. I mean, no Tank Dell, obviously. CJ Stroud is, probably not going to play. It's definitely favors the Titans on this one. And then the team that beat the Houston Texans and actually helped out the Broncos' chances with an old foe. And that old foe is Nathaniel Hackett, who actually scored over 30 points, ladies and gentlemen. Scored over 30 points against the Houston Texans and beat the Houston Texans. They will play the Miami Dolphins.
Miami.
I think hell just froze over.
Yeah.
Miami.
That was a quick answer there, Matty. You sound very convinced that it's going to be Miami.
Miami by like 17 or more.
70-20?
With or without Tyreek Hill, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be an angry game for the Dolphins. As much as the Jets defense is solid and rather good, this just feels like a really pissed off game from Mike McDaniel after everything that happened last week.
And like you said earlier, looking at their schedule of what's to come, they may see this as one of their more winnable games.
And you'll need to get the 10 wins for that division too. At the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon?
Miami.
Miami.
Yeah, this just plays into my Miami wins the AFC East prediction, so I'm just going to take Miami in every single one of those cases, but I also do think they win.
You're going to open up your background again? Like the Miami Dolphins winning the...
I think I'm good with this.
Okay.
I'm okay with this one.
Yeah.
I'm leaving it here until we catch them.
So now moving on to the NFC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the surging a little bit, Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers actually come away with this one.
I do think the Packers win this game.
And as far as
Jordan Love has kind of figured it out a little bit.
And as far as if you're keeping tabs on that very, contending, NFC South over there.
6-7, 6-7, 6-7.
Yeah, 6-7, 6-7 everywhere. The Falcons are going to be playing the Carolina Panthers, which is going to be a very tough game.
It's the Oprah Winfrey you get a 6-7 season.
Yeah.
So first off, I'd like to say the Bucs are going to beat the Packers. That wasn't asked. And then secondly, you could buy a ticket to that Falcons and Panthers game for 40-something cents a ticket. It still probably ends up being like $97 per ticket after like taxes and fees because Ticketmaster going to Ticketmaster. But
I saw that for the Panthers game. I didn't see that for that game. But
No,
that's
for
all.
that's what I'm saying, for the Falcons Panthers, like that's
Okay, yeah.
Like that's ridiculous.
Anybody got a couple quarters?
I feel like I'm looking at like the Colorado Rockies tickets of buying like rock pile tickets for the rock pile, like back when it was like $1 to go get rock pile tickets.
That'll fill up half a tank of Dave Tepper's yacht.
Right. I mean, do the Panthers at least like have a shot though? Like, do they have a shot?
It's Atlanta, so kind of, but I'm still picking the Falcons.
Can we talk about how insane it is that the Atlanta Falcons are possibly going to keep Arthur Smith because it's 6-7. They have a chance at the division. They might win the division at 6-7, and yet Arthur Smith is still possibly going to be their head coach next year. Like,
He shouldn't be, but
yeah, but here we are.
Whatever.
Who would have thought? Not me, right? The Paul
Look at
Rudd.
us.
Yeah, look at us. Who would have thought? Not me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm picking Atlanta.
49ers Cardinals.
Niners
bang.
aren't injured enough. They're going to win this game.
Bang bang.
Even if they
Niner
were
game.
injured, it's the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, Matty already went with his Boomer Sooner pick with Baker Mayfield, and I can't imagine him, picking the Iowa State Cyclone, and of course
But
it's
it's
Purdy.
Iowa State. It's the Iowa State Cyclone. It's the Iowa Hawkeye tight end. It's the Stanford Cardinal running back. It's the Sun Devil wide receiver. And then, oh, by the way, this guy named Debo that's going to snatch your chain. Debo Samuel from South Carolina. Like, they just too many weapons. They may not lose another game the rest of the season.
Man, that just makes me miss Aqib Talib.
Aqib Talib.
I just need an Eagles and 49ers NFC Championship like tomorrow.
Yep. Well, and we just watched a preview of that game, so I need the Eagles to show up more and make that more of a game.
Mhm.
Yeah, that needs to be an actual game.
Even
Yeah.
as a Niner fan, I was bored, dude.
I'm going to be
I was
honest.
bored.
I feel like it would probably go that same way again.
Or it could
Is
just
that a
be
hot
like
take?
or it could just be like a competitive game. No, because
Every Eagles game is the same.
you mentioned about possibly how the Eagles were frauds, so it's not necessarily a surprise.
I mean, they're a good team, but they're a fraudulent 10-win team.
Yeah.
Anyway,
A sneaky game in the sense of like Rams and Commanders, to where maybe the Commanders get a W here, but I mean, I see the Rams actually pulling this out. The Rams are kind of putting it together a little bit right now.
They were
Kyron
hot
Williams
last
is
week.
gonna
They
have
almost
3
pulled that
touchdowns.
off.
I mean, it's kind of scary now what you're finally seeing with, say, a healthy Matthew Stafford and a Puka Nacua Matata and a Cooper Kupp.
I'm going to take Los Angeles, but I think Sam Howell might throw for like 400 yards
It's going to be a good game.
and 2 picks probably. It's
Matty?
like a 400-yard, 4 touchdown, 2 pick game from Sam Howell.
Oh, you're muted, Matty.
You're muted.
Yeah, so they got Stafford playing well. They have Kyron Williams playing out of his mind, and Puka Nacua is a stud. So 2 studs and 1 cup going to get the job done this week against the Commanders.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as the last one possibly that we didn't cover, that I mean, I think we covered all of them, but I believe all of us had the Raiders over the Chargers, which it didn't quite get to the 70-20. It didn't quite get to the 70-20.
Is it over?
Oh, it's over
I did not-
63 to 20.
Oh,
I did not have the Chargers
no.
losing this game.
No.
I'll eat that. I'll be honest. I had, especially with no Jacobs out, I was like, oh, that's an easy dub. But they've just given up.
Do you fire? And real quick before we're finishing this up, but I mean, you got to fire Staley, right? You got to fire. Staley.
Yeah. Someone
but
asked him if he thought he was going to be the coach, still be the coach. What a dumb question. Who asks that?
on my way here after getting off of work, was talking to my fiance about it and how he's going to be done by the morning. But she's like, yeah, but you also said that about Vance Joseph. And I was like, good point.
It's almost like an identical
the
game.
difference is, I told her there's much less in the season left. So it's like, this is something to where we can probably like put a stamp on this one for the Chargers and then not being able to catch up with us and the Chiefs. Whereas early in the season, even though it looked like I was ready to throw in the towel and what the heck can we even possibly do this year, we still had enough time and we've made something out of it. But I think he might be gone tomorrow.
I have to ask you this question. Are we kicking Brandon Staley out of the circle of Brandons?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
You've
Or
been voted
changing
off
his
the
like
island.
where it's like BRANDEN, like he's got to do a name change and like become a variation because he's not worthy of.
Yeah,
he has to be a variation.
Yeah, he would
It's
have
like
to be.
Survivor where they put the torch out. That's you, Brandon.
Yeah, he would have to be or an I, right? Like an I. Like,
Yeah.
No, because that's Brandon Cooks and he's good. A U, BRANDUN. because he is DUN in LAC.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Or we got to put an E at the end because he's DONE.
Brandon.
Oh,
That's good. That's a good
clever.
one.
That's when you know you're a script writer.
Yeah.
That's 100% gonna be on a headline somewhere. Brandon in Los Angeles.
Brandon.
So I lived in Modesto, California, which is really close to Oakland, and I hung the paper on my wall when the Raiders lost to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl because I had so many Raider friends that came over to my house that I needed it to be on my wall for all of them to see, and it said Raider Obama Nation. And it was incredible. So that's where I feel like we need like a Brandon Staley.
Yeah, that's good.
Brandon
Stale.
Yeah.
Stale. Dio. There it is.
That's what Matty said.
That's what Matty did last week.
Yeah. Ray chimes in with Bray Dung.
Brandon.
Brandon. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Someone should have chanted "Let's go, Brandon" in his press conference. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I think
Perfect.
Does Tommy DeVito win 4 in a row? We didn't hit that game.
That we can't forget about Tommy DeVito. He was the.
I'm going to say he does.
He was
the NFC Player of the Week.
He was the NFC.
Him and Zach Wilson. What a world.
Good Lord, man.
I actually think that the Giants do pull it out. I think the
Tommy
Giants.
DeVito. Did you guys see his agent?
Yeah, that's what I was
my
about to say. I was
God.
waiting for that. I'm obsessed with his agent.
Oh my God.
I want to
my
turn him
God.
into a story character. Like I want to know more about him. Like he's my favorite.
He's in the
part of
mafia.
last week was his agent.
Yeah.
Like, if he wasn't an agent, he would be like a hookup consultant, right? Like a dating coach thing. Okay, so you got to neg the girl here, and you got to wear the right like outfit with the hat because you need something to like spark conversation. Like the dude's like he's got that whole vibe going, and then of course you throw this into it, and it's just.
My favorite meme from this
perfect.
week was I don't remember the exactness of it, but he's like, if you don't give Tommy, 50 million, we walk. And the guy's like, excuse me, sir, this is a Jimmy John's.
There was a great someone actually made a hoodie. I don't know if you guys get a chance to see. Someone made a hoodie with like Tommy DeVito of like the Giants logo with the hand. Yeah, so like they did the end, but with his hand going out like this, and then with the hand out, like it almost, because it of course like looks subtly like a Y. So like a new Giants logo. Yeah, it was great.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I can't do Pacino, but he's gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
You can refuse.
Yeah, I do think the Giants actually win that game.
And that was actually, I'm
Same
pretty
thing.
sure that's Marlon Brando, not Pacino. I think Marlon Brando in
Marlon
Godfather
Brando.
1 was.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you're thinking Scarface.
You're thinking Scarface there, pal.
Well, I mean, Godfather 2 was Michael as the main character, but Godfather 1, Marlon Brando, I think that's where he said, I made him an offer he can't refuse.
I gotta go watch it again. It's been a hot minute.
That's mine and my dad's.
Oh, it was
Christmas
Marlon
movie.
Brando. It was, yeah.
We watch that every Christmas, me and my dad. It's his favorite movie.
Well,
Marlon
let's not
Brandon.
mention movies. let's not mention movies with dead horses in it on our Broncos podcast. So
we don't want PETA coming after us.
I think with a guy like DeVito, it's always sunny in New York, and they're going to get the win.
I like that.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, and the one thing that's going to continue is if Tommy DeVito stays, you're going to make him a contender.
Gonna make him a contender. It's gonna be somebody.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. So any other final thoughts? Any final thoughts as far as we're winding down and
Philadelphia, Seattle, man.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure is it true that the Eagles have not beaten Seattle for like 7 games in a row or something?
It's in Seattle, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take the Eagles, but that was just crazy.
Eagles.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much analysis here.
I think I'll go fly, Eagles, fly. It's nice seeing Geno Smith struggle, by the way. Apparently DK is apparently DK Metcalf, I was talking to a Seahawks fan the other day who I work with, and I guess DK Metcalf is really frustrated right now. So I'm not trying to self-create a rumor, but I'm trying to self-create a rumor right now that, possibly if the Broncos are, maybe looking for another, physical down the field wide receiver that Russ has chemistry with. I mean, there's a certain wide receiver that is down there in Seattle that he's attended a wedding of. I mean, it's certainly possible that maybe DK Metcalf could be maybe a Denver Bronco. I'm just a hate. And I know that Sayer would love the fact that DK Metcalf would be a Denver Bronco because he was he was pounding the table for DK Metcalf like in the top 10 of the draft, and before he fell like all the way to like was it the second round or third round after he fell.
And who'd we grab that year?
Oh, who did we grab that year?
What draft was that?
What draft was? So he hasn't signed his deal, so DK would still be in that.
Was that like like Montreal Washington or something?
2019.
2019. Yep.
Let's find out. That was our Noah Fant, Dalton Reisner, Drew Lock year.
Oh, that was that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we were so dumb.
All of his teammates. All of DK's teammates.
We did actually, yeah.
Except for like Christian Berry.
We thought the future was so bright. Little did we know.
Man,
he
I
was
still think
the
about
last
one
pick
where
of the
Drew
second
just
round.
chilling with like Noah Fant
and Dalton Reisner.
And Reisner, that was what it was. It was Reisner.
Yeah.
Reisner, yeah.
That's crazy.
Also, you know who else was taken in the second round that year that we never mind, we couldn't have taken them, but Deebo Samuel and AJ Brown. We could have gotten AJ Brown.
Yeah. We definitely could have. Yeah, I have Eagles winning the
Damn, that was an insane second round for wide receivers. Anyway.
Yeah, it was.
So much so we never even hit on one.
Eagles for sure.
That was like toward the end of Elway's tenure, right?
Yeah, because
it was,
yeah. So any other final thoughts as we're in closing, Mr. Screenwriter, movie writer?
Well, I mean, you guys have been doing this kind of 1 week at a time. I would say maybe some of my like holistic season analysis is like, crazy to be here, crazy to be in this position to where we're having a good time and we're excited about games again. The other thing too is it's nice to see Sutton performing in a way where I feel like this is who he's been the whole time. There's been a lot of inconsistency and there's been a lot of, at quarterback, but I've always thought Sutton was like a top 10, maybe even like a top 5 red zone threat specifically, to where just that crazy reach that he has and how physical he is, that I've always just been like, and hoping that he wouldn't just hit that cliff once we finally figured it out. So it's nice to be kind of right at his peak where we're kind of getting better. I think there's a few like really solid Pro Bowl seasons on deck for Sutton if we can continue to play like this. So that's been one of my favorite things this year is seeing that connection. And then I don't know what to think about Judy. I know you guys probably talked about that in some of your analysis, recently. He was open a couple weeks ago a lot. And what I told a couple customers was, I'm afraid we're going to try to force it to him to like counteract that and make up for that, even when he's not open. And you saw a lot of that last week. And then once he kind of got back into his groove with Sutton again, that's where we started doing good again. So I don't know whether that's a Judy problem or a chemistry thing with Russ and Judy. That's something we got to figure out. Otherwise, we got to get some value for him and trade him in the offseason, which is just kind of a bummer because I feel like someone else is going to be able to turn him into something solid. So, yeah, it's just exciting to be here. I was ready to already give up on this season. Last year was my fiance and I have been together since January of not last year, but the previous year. So coming on 2 years. And she grew up in Colorado Springs, so she was it wasn't hard to like finesse her into being a Bronco fan. But last year we watched, and it was just so depressing that it's like I can't sell this product to her. This year it started that same way, and I'm like, damn, babe, I'm so sorry for bringing you on this journey with me. But it's now turned around to where we're having a great time. We're looking forward to Bronco games. I love being able to come on here and for us to have exciting things to talk about and exciting things to look forward to. And we're kind of in this position where we have our fate in our hands. You know, if we handle this Lions game, you know, we're kind of control of our own destiny and not just fighting for a wild card spot, but potentially fighting to take this division from the Chiefs, which I think would make us, even if we take it from the Chiefs and win the division and lose in the playoffs, like we're all just still going to feel so hyped that we finally dethroned the Chiefs. So I'm excited, man. I'm loving this season. I'm having a great time with it.
Yeah. What about you guys? Matty, just final thoughts.
It's been so long since we've had meaningful football in mid-December in Broncos country. I'm stoked. I'm cautiously optimistic. You know me, like negativity is kind of my thing. Negativity is my Easton stick, if you will. And rightfully so with how things have been since the 2015 season. But I'm starting to believe, y'all. I've got a batch of orange Kool-Aid I'm ready to just like house, throw all the vodka in it, and let's go to town.
Dive right into the punch bowl.
It's going to be wild if we beat the Lions. Like I said before, I will let myself go to some wild places mentally if we can end up getting the win and we get to 8-6 and we're like swiggity swooty, we're coming for that AFC West, Chiefs. Like it's coming. We are on the left.
How crazy is it that this is the first game in NFL history where we've played against each other and we both had winning records? When I saw that stat, I was like, well, first of all, I blame the Lions, but
mostly the Lions' fault.
Crazy.
Yeah. But 4 years ago, it definitely was like our fault.
Yeah.
The thing that I am most wanting is like, can we find any other threat downfield but Sutton? Can we get anybody else going and ease that stuff up? But I think that we have the ability to win this game. We're going to have to play almost a perfect game to beat them on the road because they have taken on the personality of their coach and they are tough and they fight and they don't go like the team that they went 1-15. They lost to the Ravens with a 66-yard field goal to Justin Tucker at the end of the game. Like, it's taken a lot of that to beat these guys. Like, we cannot allow ourselves to get to that point, but it may. And so everybody's going to have to do their job, win their battle, and we're going to have to play clean and we're going to have to be tough. And it's tough sledding, but we get this dub and it's like all right, like now we coming for that booty. Like it's on.
There's going to be a knife fight.
Yeah.
In a
Lightsaber fight. If we're going master and apprentice, it's going to be a lightsaber fight.
That's not where I was going.
Or knife fight in
knife fight in a prison
elevator.
yard.
Night fight in an elevator, like the Captain America reference that we have.
That's right.
Oh my God, perfect.
I just have to say one thing to the NFL: don't flex games over the Nuggets.
He's saying that obviously, ladies and gentlemen, because of the fact that he's actually going to the.
I will be at the Nuggets game, and I cannot watch the Broncos game. At least most of it.
Let's preface this by saying, how good is the Broncos record when you don't watch the game, Brandon?
I've watched every game for the past years.
Okay.
So I can't answer that question because right now we won 7 of the last 6 every time I watch.
So what if
that's too great of a sample size? You're not the problem.
That's fair.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, I was gonna say like if they win, you have to go to Nuggets games every from here on out. Like that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, you just
This
gotta
is
go.
the first time I've done that in the last ever. So I don't think that'll be. My wallet can't handle that, man.
I think that for me, it's just about how battle we say it so often. It's one of the popular phrases we've said in this podcast, but just how battle tested this team is when you've won the amount of games that you've had and the coach that you've had. And I think that's the thing is like when you do a comparison as far as the teams that have the winning streak that they've had and the Vikings and the Broncos, it's not that I don't like Kevin O'Connell as a head coach. I'm far more comfortable with a winning streak like this at winning 6 of the last 7, versus say the Minnesota Vikings with a second-year coach and Kevin O'Connell. Like and even if Sean Payton is, I guess in air quotes, a first-year head coach again, like he's a first-year head coach again because he's back in the game, but like he's still not new. He's not new to this. Like it's not his first rodeo. Like he's been in this, and I think that the fact that the Broncos have just won so many different games, whether it's been relying on the running game and 20 carries or a game where Javonte Williams hasn't been as much of a threat, right, in the running game, or Russell Wilson is going to end up giving that magic drive or drive or two, or play that efficient type of football, which is something we've seen. And I think that, if that's a trend that's going to continue, they clearly have shown that they can win very different games. I lead that by saying it would not surprise me if the Broncos won in a shootout, because we've not seen that type of game yet, right? Because like the way that things have gone, it's like I don't have as much faith in them winning a shootout, but the way that this team is in battle tested, I wouldn't even be the least bit surprised the way that things go. And especially with the way that they are physically, like the physicality of this team, it's imposing. And I think that right now, from the AFC side of things, there is no team physically as imposing in that conference as the Baltimore Ravens. Like it's the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos right now that are like two of the most imposing teams in that AFC. And so that alone is going to carry them, regardless of say they win or lose this game, it's going to carry them into the playoffs. And because of that, it's going to make them a really tough out, because even if they play the Miami Dolphins again, that alone will give them the extra edge. It's going to be like, hey, you know what? That 70, they will put that like, Ted Lasso, like they will put that thing over like, and slap it on the, on like in the locker room and just basically, say believe, right? And I think that like for the Broncos, like they just have to put the final nail in the coffin. And I think that they do it. I do think the Broncos do come away with the win. It is tight. It's 24-20. And yeah, but I think the Broncos, it's funny, the playoff odds, I saw it, they jumped from like whatever it was, I think it was like it's literally like the Texans game. It's like 75% if you win,
75 if we win, I think.
Yeah, 75 to 30.
Other factors happen, we go up to 80, but I think just based on our victory alone, we go from 30 to 75, if I saw that correctly.
Yeah, so it's great because if you do win, there's a higher probability that Chargers game, which may or may not have Brandon Staley, may be the one where you can clinch a berth and the playoffs to, and we're, not only that, it's on New Year's Eve. And you could possibly even do it on Christmas, which is, the Chargers recently just had a Christmas game that the Broncos all know so well, right? The Christmas game the Broncos all know so well. That resulted in Nathaniel Hackett being fired. So, I mean, like it's certainly just one of those situations where I think the Broncos will be in a really, really good situation. I think they're in a good situation now, but like I think they'll find themselves in an even better situation if they can actually physically out-tough the Detroit Lions.
75% if we win.
Okay.
75, 73. I mean, that's a 2% difference. All right. Brandon Keckler, thank you so much for hopping on with us, man. You were an absolute blast, man. You are definitely welcome anytime you
Yes,
schedule, anytime you want to hop on, and maybe, just maybe, we can work something to where maybe we can get Sayer Bettinger on the show. We can bring him back, and we can do like a Knights of Den crossover, if you will, right? With the guys over at Manely. For Brandon Miller and Matty, I'm Cameron Parker. Make sure you follow us over there on socials. Brandon Miller PO, Matty Mulls Pod, and Epi Keckler.
EPIKECKLER.
You heard the man. You can follow me at Cameron Parker PO. Again, thank you guys so much for hopping into another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so I